Hi everyone, welcome back to Unveiling Islam. I'm David Wood with Brother Rashid.
Yes.
And Brother Rashid, in a previous episode, we went through some of the arguments that Muslims use to show that there are scientific miracles in the Quran. These are claims that the Quran contained scientific knowledge that Muhammad could not possibly have known, and therefore the only explanation was that it's from God. And yet, when you actually go through the examples that Muslims use over and over again, you see either that's not what the Quran is saying, or it's not what science says, or it's information that was already widely known or believed at his time.
Yeah.
But another question that pops up is, if this is going to be their standard, if they're going to make this their standard, scientific accuracy, then are there scientific errors in the Quran?
Oh, definitely, definitely. Even going back to those stages that we mentioned before, for example, mentioning blood as one of the stages. I talked to many doctors. They say there is no stage where the fetus is a blood clot. Talking about anything there is a problem. When you go to the hadith and commentaries, it's even worse. Mm-hmm. It's like how we have male and female. Muhammad is talking about the water of the men and the water of the women. If one of them is above the other, then it follows the sex.
Yeah,
of
whichever. That was also believed prior to Muhammad.
Exactly.
It's called the two semens theory, that men have semen and women, and they mix together. And in the hadith, it's whichever one rises to the top.
And that's clearly a scientific error.
Yep.
But when we go to the Quran, for example, in Surah 86 and 6 and 7, Surah Al-Tariq, it says he was created from a fluid, which means men, ejected, emerging from between the backbone and the ribs. So
that's somewhere in this area.
Yeah, it comes back from the backbone and the ribs, between them. And then, I mean, go to any doctor, go to any scientific paper, and there is nothing like this. It's a scientific error.
Yeah, so they'd have to conclude, if they wanted to stick with this argument, that one day scientists are going to discover that semen actually comes from between the backbone and ribs, and everyone else has been wrong up till now.
And the problem, they are trying to go around it. I have seen people trying to go around it, and they will be like, no, and so they found, and it just takes you everywhere, and it doesn't explain it.
Yeah, I've seen them actually argue that this is talking about embryological development, when when cells are moving around in the embryo and stuff, and some of the cells eventually go through here and so on. It doesn't make any sense, because in the hadith, Muhammad says that we were all in Adam's backbone. Adam didn't go through embryological development. God just created him.
Until today, we say Rashid is from Sulb of Muhammad. He's from the backbone of, my dad's name is Muhammad. So he is from the backbone of Muhammad. We say it, it's in a common language. Because in the old days, they thought we are from the backbone. We come from the backbone. So that's why they still mention it in the language, which was wrong knowledge, but the Quran used it as a scientific knowledge, and it was wrong.
Yep.
We can move to another one, though.
What else? You're not saying there are more errors than that, are you?
I am saying that. Let's talk about, for example, the stars. My favorite one, shooting stars.
Yeah, so if Muhammad has miraculous scientific knowledge, then obviously he's going to know what stars are, and he's not going to mess that up. So what are these shooting stars?
Stars are just beautiful lamps hanging in the sky, so God can decorate heaven for us. So when we look, we see beautiful roof, or beautiful whatever you can call it, dome. That's how actually mentioned. And also he uses stars as a security system. So whenever the Satan or the jinn are listening to God, listening to angels, because they have secrets, God just sends one star and he shoots. That's why you see shooting stars. Actually, they are just shooting one of the demons because he tried to listen to God.
And that's in the Hadith. Muhammad would point this out when he would see a shooting star. You could see a lot more back then because there wasn't as much light pollution from lights around you.
Yeah.
But he would see a shooting star, and then he would describe it as a demon trying to sneak into heaven, and he would say that God hurled a star.
In Surah Al-Mulk 67:5, and we have certainly beautified the nearest heaven because there are 7 heavens. So the nearest one is beautified with lamps, stars, and have made from them what is thrown at the devils. Actually, the translation just trying to play around, made from them. Actually, we shoot the devil with them. And always my question was, is this a scientific thing? We know now what shooting stars are.
Yeah. And they're not stars.
And they are not.
It's a big rock hitting the atmosphere. It's not an actual star. Let me go ahead and read 2 passages here. One you just read, because this one you said they're playing around with the translation there.
Yeah.
So this is Haleli Khan, and it says, "And indeed we have adorned the nearest heaven with lamps, and we have made such lamps missiles to drive away the devils, and we have prepared for them the torment of the blazing fire." What's interesting is in another passage here, so this is Surah 37, verses 6 to 10.
Yeah.
The fire doesn't even seem to be like fire at judgment. It seems to be the fire of like a shooting star.
Yeah.
Let me read this. So Surah 37, 6 to 10. "Verily we have adorned the near heaven with the stars for beauty and to guard against every rebellious devil. They cannot listen to the higher group, angels, for they are pelted from every side, outcast, and theirs is a constant or painful torment, except such as snatch away something by stealing, and they are pursued by a flaming fire of piercing brightness." So the demon steals something and then gets pelted.
So let's simplify it. Angels are talking about secrets. Hey, God is going to do something tomorrow, and this will happen. He's going to do this and going to do this, and they have secrets. And then when the one devil is listening, and God will be like, "Oh, here's one, shoot him." And then there is still one who snatches some of the information, and he gives it to we call them
soothsayers is how they normally translate. Yeah.
So the people who fortune tellers. So he's going to give them that information. That's why they are accurate. This is the whole thing, the whole story behind it. I mean, I have a better security system than God if this is all what he got. We have cameras today. We have sensors. We have everything. So he has stars, and what a waste.
Yeah.
There are billions of
hurling entire stars.
Billions of stars. What a waste. It seems not really from God. What I hear here is just a myth that was in Arabia. And Muhammad just put it there as a fact.
And you could see why someone would come to this conclusion, because a shooting star does actually look like a star, right? And you say, "Oh, you know, what happened? Why is that star shooting across the sky?" Oh, it's a security system. But you know, putting all of that together, the stars you see in the sky are actually missiles waiting to be launched. For when a demon sneaks in to listen to Allah's plans, so he can sneak back and tell fortune tellers what's going to happen in the future. And so when you see a shooting star, it's because God or one of the angels grabbed a star, hurled it at a demon to stop him. But you've pointed out, some of them still get away. Yeah. They get away from God's security system.
It's not 100%.
Yeah, it's not 100% effective.
They still have some holes to deal with.
Yeah,
let's go to mountains. Surah 16:15, Surah Al-Nahl. He has cast into earth firmly set mountains. So mountains, God just throw them on earth so it would not shake. And this is clearly a scientific error. So God created earth, but it was shaky.
And so he put those down like tent pegs to hold everything.
Exactly, to hold earth. And we know that's not true. Mountains are
tectonic
formed
plates.
because
they push together and then
they go up.
So they're not hurled down.
And I don't know how a Muslim will think this is from God. When I was studying these things, it was the last thing and I said, this is not from God. If you need proof that Muhammad made this, it's a human-made thing, just look at scientific errors with clear eyes, and you will see it's not God's word.
And what's amazing is it gets much, much worse when you bring in the commentaries of his companions and other things that were in the hadith and so on. The overall picture you get, even with the mountains, is that there's this giant fish down at the bottom, and there are these 7 earths all stacked up on top of each other. That's in the Quran too. There are 7 earths, and they're all stacked up. And then that fish becomes agitated, and that's why the earths shake, and that's where earthquakes come from. And that's how they tie in the mountains that Allah puts them on the earth to sort of stabilize it when this fish is rocking the boat, so to speak.
I had a debate with a Muslim sheikh, an Egyptian one, and I asked him about the stars, and I told him, what is the reason that God created stars in the Quran? He mentioned 2 things. He said to cast demons and also to guide people.
Mm-hmm. He left out the missiles?
Well, I mean, to guide people at night. Mm-hmm. That's what it used to be in Arabia. So I told him, now we have GPS. We don't need that. So he just created them for nothing. We have GPS, and we don't need stars to go in a desert and see our direction and stuff like that. It just means this Quran was made up from the culture, from Muhammad's surroundings. It has no scientific discoveries. It has actually scientific errors.
And so for all you Zakir Naik fans out there whose faith and confidence in the Quran has been based on its supposed scientific accuracy, we can confirm right here, better find a better argument.